Hey everyone, just letting you know real quick, we had some audio issues with this interview. We got it figured out on our end. We were able to do some overdubs on my side and get it in, but it's all the same stuff. A little bit of audio issues towards the end too. Just stick with it. Great interview, and look forward to having him on again. Hello everyone. Thank you for listening in to Downpour Sports Network exclusive interview with Wabash men's basketball coach Kyle Brumett.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Coach. Real quick, let's discuss what got you into the coaching phase of your life.
Well, like most young boys in Indiana, I grew up playing basketball. My dad coached me when I was young. When I got into middle school and high school, I had some pretty influential coaches. They weren't only in basketball, but I had some young teachers and coaches that had a pretty strong influence on me. And then when I went to college, I went to Hanover, which is very similar to Wabash, similar in size. At that time, we were in the same league. And my college coach, Mike Beitzel, was a very influential person in my young adult life. And when I went to college, I really didn't think basketball coaching was something that I had an interest in. I probably didn't even think about it as a career, but as I got there, I wasn't a great player, so I had to understand the game and find a role for myself, and my coach was always trying to help me carve out a role. And as I got further along in college, I was probably more of a coach than I was a player, or at least I felt like I could contribute to the team and to the wins and losses by thinking the game even more so than being able to physically contribute. And that really led me to working basketball camps in the summer and trying to find and network my way into coaching. And it did. It worked.
So what made you choose Wabash out of all the other schools? Small town Indiana, Division III basketball.
Well, like I said, I had 4-year academic and basketball experience at Hanover, so I got to know small college basketball. I got to know the small private schools in the state of Indiana. That was my frame of reference. And my freshman and sophomore year, Hanover had a great team. I had when I was a sophomore, a senior on our team, David Benner, who's now a very successful high school coach, has been the Indiana All-Star coach. He was the National Player of the Year. So my teams were very good. And then when I was a junior and senior, my team wasn't as good, but Wabash, Coach Petty had really taken off in those times, or at least in that stretch of his career, the late 90s, early 2000s, and I just saw great teams here and played against really good people. So then my coaching career started at the University of Southern Indiana, working for Bruce Pearl. And then it transitioned to DePaul, and I was at DePaul for 7 years as the top assistant. And as you can imagine, that was our rival. Wabash was our rival. Coach Petty was our rival. And I just drew a really strong affection for how Wabash went about their business and how competitive they were and the kind of guys that they could recruit and the kind of academic students that they had here. And my wife and I, we had lived in Greencastle when we first were married. We were familiar with Crawfordsville. So, really I went off to be a head coach at a couple other small private schools, wanting to have a job like Wabash, small, private, high academic, really good people, and in a small town. So when it opened, it was just one of the places that we had on our list that we had an interest in, and it allowed us to come back to Indiana. So it was a really good fit for us.
That's great, Coach. We're definitely glad to have you here. I'm going to throw one kind of out that we didn't get to really talk about before this. What's it like recruiting in Division III and going against Division II and even Division I schools?
Yeah, it's a challenge. A lot of our guys are better players. They come to us in usually one of two ways. Either they are, not quite developed, so they're under the radar, and maybe we see something in them that some scholarship places don't, and they fit academically here. Their family appreciates the education that they're going to get, and they really blossom once they get here. Or, they are a scholarship type guy, Division II, NAIA, and what they're looking for academically doesn't fit the offers that they've received. And, we're fortunate here at Wabash with our academic scholarships and our financial aid, mostly through gifts from the college or from our alumni, that we can give strong scholarships and financial aid to attract students that might even have scholarship opportunities. But finding those guys are difficult. Wabash has a really strong reputation, a great name in Indiana, especially because of our alumni network and the product that our faculty and staff are able to produce for our students. But you combine the fact that we don't have scholarships, we're outside of a big city, and the academics are very strong with the fact that we're all male, and it is difficult. We have a smaller pool to attract students from. But with that being said, we have been very happy in our 4 years here that we've been able to attract the kind of students, the kind of people and families, and the kind of players that we've been able to get each year. I've been very happy with how our recruiting has gone. So though it's difficult, you put your nose to the grindstone, you work at it. It's a everyday recruiting's every day. There is no days off in recruiting, and if you work at it like that, then we really believe in the guys we've been able to bring in, and we think we're heading in the right direction.
I think so too, Coach. You guys are doing a good job. Is there anything you do before a game to get mentally prepared for the game? Any pregame rituals? Anything you do with the team? Anything along those lines?
I'll probably yell a lot in practice today before. That's probably the closest thing that I can find that's consistent. No, at least in my time as a college coach, being young, 20 years ago, and then, the last 11 years being a head coach, the analytical and the studying side of it has become more and more prominent. My staff and we watch a lot of film. We study statistics, not only of ourselves, but of our opponents. And, so like for me, I try to watch at least 4 games of our opponent prior to playing them. And, I don't know if that's necessarily a ritual. It's just part of my habit. And my staff, does even more than that, So we're trying, at least as we establish ourselves here at Wabash, we're trying to make sure that our players know that we're not asking them to put in more time than we're willing to work at it. We're not asking them to do more than us. When I ask them to put the hours in the gym, we're going to put that time in trying to prepare for our opponents and make sure that our players are prepared. So, I think, at least from my perspective, more than rituals or superstitions, I am just pretty adamant about being and feeling prepared to go into each game.
Well, I got to say, I like your first choice.
Well, I do yell a lot in practice.
Nah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Our guys are pretty good about handling it. They know if they decide to come play for me, they've seen me, they've heard me. I'm pretty blunt in the recruiting process. I don't want guys to come if they don't know what they're getting into. So they've been pretty good about letting me coach them with my personality, and that's something that I greatly appreciate. Every coach is a little different. I think it's really important as a coach that you don't try to be something that you're not. And it's important that you're working at a place and have players that want you to be yourself. And I've got to let them be themselves. And it has been a good fit in my first few years here at Wabash.
That's great, Coach. Quick question for you. You went and beat on the road then ranked number 25 Worcester team. Then at home, you lost a close game against the number 19 ranked Ohio Wesleyan College. They were some pretty tough games. You pulled out in one, you didn't on the other. Does Wabash men's basketball, do they need to be ranked?
Probably not. We have challenged ourselves with the schedule. That win at Worcester, it was really big for, my staff, for my players, for building the program. It was big for Wabash. It had not been done here at Wabash since 2011, and it had only been done 3 times prior to our win early December. So, things like that, they're important as you're trying to build the program back to where Coach Petty had it. We have some big games right here in front of us. I think if we can, if this team can string some consistent wins together, that might be something that we could crack into, after the first of the year maybe. But there's a lot of really good teams, and they only rank 25 of them. And Division III is a little unique and different in that sometimes the people that are doing the rankings, they don't really get to see the better teams because we're not all on TV like Division I. But I think the way we played at Worcester and at times against Ohio Wesleyan at home, we played like a top 25 team, and I hope we can continue that. But we haven't done it consistently enough over this season or the last to probably be worried too much about that. I do think Wittenberg is a team that's on our schedule that's coming up after the first of the year. I think we play them at home on January 10th, and they're undefeated overall, undefeated in the conference and haven't lost a non-conference game. And I do believe that they're probably going to be the next team in our league that cracks the top 25 ranking.
Yeah, that's a huge game for you guys. I plan on getting there and taking some pictures and covering it. You guys got a 2-game homestand, the 29th and 30th of December, correct?
Yeah, we play. We go on the road this weekend. We have 2 big conference games right after finals, tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, against Hiram and Allegheny. It's always a tough trip. It's about 6 hours to Hiram and then another 2 hours to Allegheny, and we play them back to back. So that'll be difficult. Then we go to Rose-Hulman, which is always a fun rivalry game, on the 21st of December. We'll break a little bit for Christmas, ready for those 2 home games. And those home games, hopefully the local listeners can get excited about those. We play the University of Chicago. They could be ranked by the time we play them. They received some votes early in the year. They're a very good team. And then we follow that up with Franklin College on the 30th, which is always a really good game for the local community, because Franklin has, like us, a team that's predominantly from Indiana, and they're very high scoring. Should be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I agree. The University of Chicago game, I'll be there at Chadwick Court to cover and take pictures and all that stuff.
Wonderful.
So, Coach, when you're not practicing and coaching out on Chadwick Court, what do you do in your spare time, hobby-wise or whatever in this town?
Well, I've got 3 kids, 3 boys. They are 10, 7, and 4. And my wife and I, pretty much our downtime is surrounding their schedule, which I love. You know, I mean, coaching basketball is a little bit like a hobby in itself. You know, I get to go to work every day doing something that I love. I get to do it at a place that's very comfortable and that I can see myself continuing to grow as a professional. But I love it. I enjoy it. And then, you know, it is a busy schedule, especially during the season. So, you know, during that break time, you know, like last Sunday, we had the day off. We went out, we cut down a Christmas tree, we brought it home, decorated it, and did some family stuff. And you know, unfortunately, I have to miss some of my kids' sporting events when we're on the road, like we've been this month. But you know, just getting to watch them grow and do things in the community. And we have really good friends here too. I mean, Crawfordsville's a great town to live in, a great place to raise a family. We are very fortunate that we moved here at the time we did. Our kids have wonderful friends, and my wife and I do as well. You know, so we love living in Crawfordsville. We have a really good network here, and we appreciate not only I love the season. It's harder on my wife because of how busy our kids are, but you know, just year round, the good people that we get to share our time with here in Crawfordsville.
All right, Coach. I want to throw some NBA stuff at you. Do you have a favorite?
Absolutely.
NBA team?
Well, I'm a Pacer fan, but in all honesty, the Celtics staff is very close and dear to my kind of upbringing in coaching. Brad Stevens and I are about the same age. He was at DePaul at the same time I was a student at Hanover. When I went to coach at DePaul, he was in his first year out working at Eli Lilly and wanted to get back into basketball. And his assistant coach, Micah Shrewsbury, was not only a college teammate of mine, but we grew up in the same hometown. So we grew up together, went to elementary school, played basketball against each other, and then went to college together. And they also have another assistant who's from Indianapolis and played Division III basketball. You know, so they just have a really strong Indiana connection. I've been fortunate enough to be friends with them. You know, so I'm very invested and becoming more and more a Celtic fan as those guys have been there longer. So I would say probably I root for the Pacers, and I'm an adopted Celtic fan.
All right, well, I'm going to throw you on the spot here. Who do you have winning the Eastern Conference?
Oh, it's gonna. I think the Celtics are more prepared to win the conference. They've got the personnel to do so. You know, I really like some of the moves the Pacers have made. I think they're growing and trending in the right direction, but they definitely need to add at least one, possibly two guys that, you know, are starters and have the potential of being all-stars. But I think if you look at the Pacers, I think there's similarities with their young talent to the Celtics and how they built the Celtics to where they are now. You know, with Miles Turner and Sabonis, Victor Oladipo, I think all three of those guys have some similarities to the successful players that the Celtics have kind of grown with, and then they added pieces through free agency, and hopefully the Pacers can get some draft picks like the Celtics did.
Well, that's some great insight, Coach. Definitely look forward to having you on more and down the road, and definitely have some more interactions with you.
Absolutely. Anytime that we can get on together, I'd love to do it. And please feel free to come by the game, take some pictures, and stick around afterwards, and we'll talk after the game.
Sounds good. I'll be there. So,
thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.